season itself, even it's storming, it's not enough. When we have rain into that bottleneck and push to the top of the hill, this is how I got the water to the higher place of the mountain. That had to be again an enormous engineering. Today we do not see. But can you imagine the water fall down the hills, and I said with an enormous stream of power. Well, again, if you leave it like that in the valley, it just fall down. But if you direct it into like a bottleneck aeroplane to get the stronger stream, it pushes the water, has much more power, and it goes up the hill. And this is how he directed the water into the water. We know that 3/4 of the water of Masada was in water cisterns around the hill. Once the Romans surrounded Masada, the zealots, the Jews that were down here, up here, could not go down to get the water. That was cut off for them. The only one that could use is the water that was on the top of the mountain, which was sufficient enough for 1,000 people for one rainy season or for one summer. As there was a drought 1 year before, they spread water. They never knew what will happen in the next water season, or if the Romans are not going to cut it down. One thing we know, Silva, when he came up here, he would cut off everything around Masada. You see, this is why he said there will all be drought up there and they'll come running down. He did not make his own work what is on the top of the mountain. So this is called the water gate. Used to be steps going down here to the water cistern. He was afraid that they're going to betray him and take his throne away.
So you have this place, the other place down in Jerusalem.
And Jerusalem and Caesarea and Herodion. He built it as an escape places.
But he was a Roman.
He was a Jew, an Israeli, who was appointed by the Roman to be the king of the Jews. Because his parents came from the Edomite hills, which is a little bit further south in the east. And he was appointed by the Romans. The Jews hated him because he was not of a royalty family. He was not a part of the people. He wanted to please the Jews and the Romans at the same time. He accepted the Roman culture, which was against the Jews. It was a controversy. All right, here we see a very interesting. So 3 years later, remember the Jews came up here only a 70 common era. That they had already marked the sign, so they did. Now I'm explaining it because we believe that that was once the oldest synagogue in the world, till we confirm that in Gamla in the Golan Heights there is a synagogue which is older than this. Obviously that was a synagogue that was used by the leaders or by the very Orthodox people. They were probably the meeting place. This was probably the decision was made to kill each other right in here. Because in that corner we find a little piece of jar with the name of the family when we excavated it. The meeting, that was the leader discussion. This is where they all met. And when they finished the service, the Torah could just not lay down here. Were taken out and put in a scroll room, separate. Only on Monday, on Thursday, and on Shabbat, they brought it here, prayed. You know, that coffin of holding the Torah is the much later invention of the Jews to hold it within the place. But on Masada, they had the scroll room separate. In this little room inside, this is where we find the scroll of Ezekiel, the prayer of the dry bones. Right in here, in this room. All that area was covered with dirt, and I told you we participated in digging. We dug in that corner, and then we came, first of all, to that black line. And when we came to the first step, that is already decorating plaster over the original one. We came to the first step, we called the Gal Yadin, and then he told us that we found the synagogue. This is where we had to fight. We really had to fight because everybody wanted to come to dig with us. All the 100 of us, we didn't allow anybody else. In 2 weeks, we dug it up. And we find the original synagogue. So this is where people, when they come to do bar mitzvah, from all over the world, they're coming down here. This is where we do the bar mitzvah in this synagogue or in a residential area. Or
The entrance to the synagogue.
I took pictures at Synagogue.
Okay.
And then I took pictures of you in the Synagogue.
Okay, that's good now. That's all right. That's good now. That's good.
pigeonholes.
Pigeonhole.
The Jews that were here did not use it.
They ate them.
For whom they were sent. To whom they thought that they only wanted the left survival and free in the world. They did not need it. But we find later on that the Byzantine, the Christian that were here, also used it as pigeon post. But that was, now the word columbarium is more of a burial place. Remember we spoke about cremation, deaths and so on? But actually originally that is a post office. There behind the tractor we were down there. You see some of the stone down here, they rolled it down. One person cannot lift it. It means if it's piled over here, we are very close to the Roman ramp. And we're going to see it in a moment. But this is the stone that they took and rolled down the hill to prevent the Roman of building the ramp. Absolutely. Now, Gordon asked about caterpillars. Caterpillar the Roman had, but the size of a stone of a caterpillar is not more than a palm of your hand. It was washed down by rain and sand and storms and so on. The original Roman ramp started where you see that little shack over there and came up here. This is where the Roman built. We see the bigger camp ahead of you to the right. That was the Roman camp. The small camp down there below, the camp of the Jews, who carried the dirt from the mountainside and brought it out here. Before we had the cable car, the only way one could climb is or that ramp or the snake path. Then they made the cable car and we stopped the foot climbing almost to Masada. What you see over there, it's like a little theater. That was the Sound and Light big concert of the Israeli Philharmonic Orchestra. And once in a while we have Sound and Light show down here with playing with all the lights. This way you see all the lights all around here. We're getting more and more people. I asked the man in the cable car how many people were yesterday. He said yesterday was only 1,700 people on top of Masada. Can you imagine? Every travel agency put it on the program and the visitors are coming up. But this is actually where the Roman came. This where we're standing was actually the wooden wall where Elazar ben Yair took the stone away and put here the wooden wall. I mean the Roman was standing out here, tried to pierce that wall, and they cannot because it's a wooden wall, and then was put out on fire. When all that wall is on fire, then they talk about taking the life of each other and remain or die as free Jews. But this is where the Roman came up, through that ramp. 8 months took them to build the ramp. Okay, come on. Let us not snap.
The ramp right here. It's deteriorated probably by 50% since it was built originally.
Over here sat the ruler. His family lived in a building nearby. Down below here there were 2 rooms with beautiful mosaic. And we closed it down and we show it only from the 2nd floor because people like to take souvenirs and it's too precious. Under that palace there's a huge water cistern that can contain over 50,000 cubic meters of water. And there's 2 like that on Masada. We just closed it again because people started to chop and write in it and so on. But can you imagine 50,000 cubic meters of water of a huge cistern? What we saw there, the one that I showed it to you, is not even less of a quarter. After the man who would design, when he would do it. Like today, you're going to want to put new paper wall on your walls of your home. You go out, you look at the book, you say, I want this color, that design, and this is how it's done. But that is typical